one job to make the best wine 100 times in a row for 3 months. That's what I do.
You have this 9-month build-up every single year, and to get to that end goal, which essentially isn't the end goal, but just the beginning of bringing the fruit in, is really kind of what it's all about.
I think those few weeks leading up to harvest, that time, is to me the most special.
Everything up to that point you do before you make your picking decision is in trying to make the grapes as ready as possible to make the wines that you hope to make out of those certain blocks.
Once the decision is made to plant a variety and a stick of rootstock on a site, what drives style from that vineyard is how it's grown and when it's picked.
Style really is impacted by the winemaker's decision on things that will affect the aesthetics of that wine, right? When to pick. Are you a riper picker or a less riper picker?
I might pick 2 weeks later in a vineyard than another winemaker. The wine that I make will be different. It will still tell you something about the place it's from, how it was grown, how it was managed, but the flavor profile will change. So from raspberry to blackberry to blueberry to prune.
I'm so happy that I'm not here all the time during a harvest, and you probably are too, because implicitly, when you get to the end of the harvest period and you start tasting the grapes, you know, they taste quite ripe. Well, you know, those are good. The rain is coming. I said, come on, Tim, go and pick them. And you're always saying, no, 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 you got to wait about a couple of weeks or so.
There's a whole group of kind of new winemakers, new as of the last 30 years, that pick just by taste.
When I taste a specific thing, I know how many days it's going to take if obviously Mother Nature coincides with what I'm wanting.
We make our picking decisions based on walking the blocks, tasting the fruit.
And when it tastes right for what my goal is with the wine at the end, that's when I decide to pick.
I think that's my favorite thing on the planet, is walking vineyards, tasting fruit, getting close to that moment when you know the fruit's optimal.
We're looking for the specific depth of character beyond the sweetness. So there's a spiciness, there's a richness.
I'm looking at dimpling, which is a huge thing. For me, this is my indication that I'm almost ready to pick, as well as I'm tasting the flavors. I'll receive bricks later today. Last week, the bricks were at 25.1. With the heat, I'm assuming that this will probably put me at 26.
In many cases, some wineries will pick entirely based on chemistry when there's a certain amount of sugar in the grapes.
If it was a high degree of sugar, you just picked it then, and it was like you already hit your numbers, just pick it.
Dad, back in the 80s and 90s, he would walk through this vineyard, and we would do detailed chemical analysis on all this. And working with you, with your own method, which I feel is just as technical, but the technical aspect is built into the sort of intuitive aspect.
All those different factors kind of play in, and over the years, I've focused less on the science and use it as a reference, but really go more on my intuition now.
The chemistry is a pretty blunt instrument in terms of trying to understand what's happening at harvest time. And there are things it tells you, but the things that you can tell by taste are more. Both the same things and in addition.
Past a certain point in harvest, numbers don't really mean anything.
We definitely look at numbers, but my decision to pick is really, it's based on taste.
When we get close to harvest, every single day, taste, 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 making sure the chemistry is right, but it's still the flavor.
We definitely start evaluating solely based on taste and flavors.
Solely on taste for me, yep.
So when you're picking based on flavor, not on chemistry, you have to taste a lot of fruit.
After you taste enough grapes, you can tell when they're perfectly ripe.
There is a light bulb that goes off. The acidity's just speaking the right way to me in my mouth. The texture and the tannins are speaking to me.
What I want specifically, I want bright flavors.
For me, when I walk through the vineyards, I'm tasting the grapes and I'm looking for, you know, those dark fruits, those black cherries. Currant is something I'm really after.
And then obviously, going back to the winery and looking at the numbers and seeing where the bricks level's at.
The fruit is sweet enough. It's been developing. It's enough bricks. It's around 25, 26 bricks, enough to make wine. But the question is, how's it taste? Flavors are edging into blackberry, sort of nice ripe flavors. The tannins are still a little bit edgy.
I try to get it before it tastes raisiny, and there's like a fine line.
It's about the freshness of the fruit. To me, I really like to pick fruit when it still has some fruit integrity. So I don't like, I don't like raisins. Not too many anyway. A little bit, it's good for complexity, but not too much.
I remember as a kid, I was an A's fan. I used to chew on my baseball glove. I remember that leather, tanniny taste. When the grapes are just past ripe, they start to taste like that. We want them on the fresher side of ripeness.
I'm